Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Detroit Regional Chamber's COVID-19 Town Hall Series. We have a exciting one today, or at least it's exciting for me, and I'm sure it is for everyone listening in, knowing that this is a sports crazy state. We're going to talk about the future of sporting events. My name is Brad Williams. I lead our government relations and public policy work at the Detroit Regional Chamber. And never was in danger of being in the field of professional athletics, at least as an athlete. But I do have two experts in professional athletics and sporting events and how we're going to be able to get out and enjoy the summer now that we have had our capacity limits lifted. And I think tonight is the first night, if the radio is right, that we're going to have capacity limits lifted at Comerica Park. So I have with me from Comerica Park the Vice President of Operations, Chris Lawrence, and also Rick Brenner from Michigan International Speedway. So I just want to say thanks to both of you for joining us today. The Chamber, coming up, on July 13th, we're having our own first in-person event. It's going to be outdoors, the Detroit Policy Conference on July 13th. So this is a big deal for us too, and we've been definitely thinking about this. And I'm looking forward to the conversation. I just want to remind people who are listening in that you do have the opportunity to ask a question. If you have a question, drop that into the question box. I'm going to be monitoring that, and we'll be trying to get to as many of those as possible. But first, I'm just going to start asking you a few questions. I'm going to put you on the hot seat first, Chris, because it's your big night. What are the steps you've been taking so far, beginning in April to welcome fans back to Comerica Park? But now, especially now that the capacity limits are off, has that changed what you're doing at all?
Well, I think for us, we got a little taste of it last season, right? MLB started with no fans, but we did have people in the building. Obviously we had workers, there was media here, the players, the staff. So we got a little teaser last year, and I think learned a lot of what was expected of us, what things worked and didn't. And we tried to envision ourselves, not knowing at that time really, if and when we have fans back, whether it was at the end of last season or if we started this season in a limited capacity, in which we did. So, I think we learned a lot of what was going to work and what wasn't going to work. There certainly was a consumer confidence was a big phrase that we really tried to focus on, of what's going to be important for our consumers. How do we make the players, the coaches, our colleagues here safe, but also obviously the fans that are coming through here? How do we provide a safe environment for them? So I think preparing this year was really, hey, the health and safety protocols that MLB put out, things that we had a mandate to do. Where were we at the time? I mean, certainly if we would have started last season in April of what we knew versus what we know now about the virus, things were totally different. I'm sure Rick was, we were getting inundated with every product under the sun of what was going to kill COVID. Right, like at the time, we could have spent millions of dollars on things that no one really had beta tested, tried. But I think just really it was simple, right? It was just doing everything that became accustomed to us. And you'll see that, tonight, there's still protocols in place. We've definitely put an emphasis on filtration in rooms and areas, and making sure that whether it's through ionization to go ahead and kill and purify air better, whether it's through added filters of increasing our MERV levels within filters, all the way down to, hey, hand sanitizing. We still have hand washing stains that are out. You'll still see some plexiglass barriers. Cashless was a big one. Everyone, that was kind of like an industry-wide transition. We'll still maintain a no bag policy. That was something that was implemented and that we think will help consumers, but that takes some education. So it's really a lot of stuff that we learned over the past 12 to 16 months about the virus, what works, what didn't, and then how do we transform that into welcoming people back here to the park.
So now, Rick, I want to welcome you as the third member of the Blue Shirt Caucus on this panel today. When we come to MIS, it's a little bit different than we go to Comerica Park, right? It tends to be more of a full weekend affair, and that is part of the allure of coming to MIS. So what are you doing? Maybe similar or different to what they're doing at Comerica Park to welcome folks back?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Brad and Chris. Good to see you, and thanks for having me. And appreciate everybody who's listening being part of this with us. And I think, look, you're right. We have three. I mean, I think it goes back and forth. Chris has to do it every day, day in and day out in long homestands, and we have a weekend to prepare for. We've got three great races coming up in our Henry Ford Health Systems 200, our New Holland 250, and our Firekeepers Casino 400. But at the end of the day, we're really proud to have been the first major sport back with fans last year. We did complete our whole season last year, although we had to move it around a little bit. And similar to echo Chris's comments a little bit, a lot of lessons learned throughout the country, not just in Michigan, being a part of NASCAR, being a part of the league, and whether it's our Talladega operation, our Daytona operation, or one of the other of our facilities, and the team that we have around us, and frankly, sharing with other sports and other leagues and other industries as well, and really, coming up with what's best. We're going to lean heavily on, the Department of Health and Human Services for their guidance and their protocols, but you'll see, as you've always seen, safety is at the forefront of our thought process in our sport and at our facilities. So you'll continue to see plenty of hand washing stations, those kinds of things as well. And of course, we're going to pay close attention to whatever protocols permit for us to do. The goal of creating that first class experience in a safe atmosphere for our fans, our guests, and our competitors.
So I guess for both of you, I was very lucky. I had the good fortune of being able to go to opening day at Comerica Park. And let me tell you, if for those of you who haven't had a chance to go back yet, you think it's, you're kind of accustomed now to watching it on TV. You think, oh, TV is just as good. It's not. Once you go back, you're going to recognize it's worth the investment to go out in the experience. But that said, there are some variations, some new modifications, cashless payments. You mentioned, Chris, filling out, I had to fill out a health form when I went in. How are your customers reacting to that? Because it's still a great experience, but it's a different experience.
Yeah, I think we've been pleasantly surprised, and I think we were fortunate where it wasn't on the onset. Like if it was last May or June and we were implementing a lot of these kind of mandates that we had, specifically the online health screening, which starting tonight is no longer required. But there was definitely an education process. I think we really had to work with our communications team, our social media team, our ticketing folks to really ensure that we got that message out of all the new standard protocols that were in place. But for the most part, I think people welcome them. I mean, certainly, especially when you get into resale tickets and tickets getting passed through to consumers who aren't the actual purchaser, getting that language to them is difficult for us. Folks coming in from visiting teams, right? Because every state was different, it was somewhat challenging of educating people. But we really didn't see a lot of pushback. I think people, just like in every other facet of society, they kind of just went with the flow and understood that, hey, this is what the times call for right now, whether it was a mask or whether it was a health screening or whether it was not bringing a bag in. There's always going to be instances, and we tried to educate people ahead of them coming in and then deal with customer service issues on the spot. But I'd say for the most part, fans have been pretty adopting, and it's been, I don't want to say flawless, but it really hasn't been an issue in terms of all these new items that we at least used for the first quarter of the season.
Right, and like you mentioned, Rick, NASCAR's had a little bit more time to adapt to some of this stuff, particularly with NASCAR being a multi-state operation. Have there been lessons that you've been able to learn from some of your partner tracks in other states about some of the mitigation strategies that they've used and how their customers have reacted to them about what you can do that might work better than has been used in the past?
Yeah, I mean, not only lessons learned, but actually gone to and worked those events and stood out in front. One of the events last fall and this past spring, I was at our Kansas track. I was out front just saying hi to people and greeting them when they come in and talking to them and in it with them, right? And I think the biggest thing, most of our fans have been really patient and cooperative. Again, to echo what Chris has experienced as well. And I think what's interesting in this particular round is tickets have gone back on sale and our fans have reacted very well to it, both in terms of purchasing tickets and camping. I think one of the things we've all grown so accustomed to, and I don't know if you had the same experience, Chris, but we've become so accustomed to what are all the things, what are all the things in this order that we can't do, that when it's not in there, it's kind of like, well, now what do I do, right? And I think, so it is an education to let fans know that this is kind of the new normal, which is a lot like the old normal with some additional cautions and precautions for them to be a part of and come and enjoy. And I would also, Brad, echo your comments. I think for me, just as a sports fan, yeah, watching it on TV, I think the TV broadcast is better with the fans in the park or at the track, right? I think even the viewing experience, so much of how important fans are to our sports has really come to light. That live attendance, the oohs, the ahs, the cute kid that catches the foul ball, the marriage proposal, all those things, that are part of the experience, they come through on the television too.
Yeah, you're right. The first sporting event I watched on television, when was it, late last spring, when people started coming back, was a Bundesliga match in Germany, and they had piped in the crowd noise, and it was weird. It was really weird watching it on TV without the crowd noise, and then you put the fake crowd noise in, and it helped, but it's not the same. And we can't wait to have everyone back in full stadiums. I mean, you can both may be aware. I mean, we put on a pretty big event here at the Chamber too, scheduled for September this year. The Mackinac Policy Conference is not as big as a NASCAR race or an all-star game, but we have quite a few people there. One of the things that our leadership determined was that we were going to ask people to ensure that they were vaccinated before they could attend that event. Now, I know that's harder to do when you're trying to put tens of thousands of people in a stadium on a nightly basis, but are there other types of things that you're trying to do to encourage people to participate in vaccination programs or other sorts of public health programs, in partnership with the state or other public health entities?
Yeah, I think for us, it's simple. That it was out there that we use the platform of our players and even our managers. So like the actual high profile people out there pushing it. Now, having me come across to through a commercial isn't going to do anything for the residents of Michigan, but using Miguel Cabrera or AJ Hinch and just that power and that voice to push that vaccination message was certainly something that we were thankful that they were willing to do, and really I think made our lives easier on the business operation side of using their platform to push the message that at the time we were contemplating vaccinated sections or non-vaccinated sections, and how do we entice people, whether it's season ticket holders who we're still unsure about coming back, or just the general family or friends, right? Like, how do we get those people to come back? And using that platform for us was obvious, and we were thankful that we were able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, those things are difficult when you're having those conversations, I think, and I think it's going to be for the next several months. I don't know, Rick, how NASCAR has reacted to this since the vaccine has become available.
Yeah, our government affairs team has worked really hard directly with the CDC and the White House, and has helped push out different programs in different states. And we are in touch with the Department of Homeland Health and Human Services here in Michigan to kind of create our own Michigan-specific version. And I think the biggest thing to do is, from our perspective, is we'll follow the protocols from DHHS in terms of who comes in and who doesn't come in. But also, you got to recognize it is a personal choice for some. I chose to do it. I think it's, my wife has chosen to do it. We believe it's the right thing to do. So we'll continue to participate in any way we can to help get that message out, and encourage people to do so. But we'll follow the state guidelines and protocols for who can come in and not come in.
Hey, Brad, I'll just add to that too, and a little plug here, but we are starting tonight. There's a vaccination opportunity available at the Fox Theater. And you come in, you get vaccinated. It's starting at 4 o'clock all week, and you can get voucher to 2 tickets for either tonight's game or any other future game, as well as a Meijer gift card. So, little plug for everyone out there who's looking to come down or maybe hasn't gotten vaccinated, is interested in it. And that's a partnership, something we were contemplating as an organization, and then MLB really joined in with. So I think across all 30 teams that offering is happening in some capacity, and I think you're going to see that for a while now, whether it's through NASCAR Speedway events or college football events, and it's going to trickle out until we can really exhaust every opportunity available. And I guess
I shouldn't have mentioned, Brad. Actually, I haven't been vaccinated. I'm going to go down to the Fox Theater tonight. So I'm going to get a couple tickets to a Tigers game. But that's awesome, Chris. Thank you for doing that.
That is really cool. And if the Chamber's communications team is listening right now, and I'm sure they are, I hope we are papering our social media with this offer, because we're trying to encourage as many people to get vaccinated as possible. But let's talk a little bit about, we did talk about what the fans mean to the television viewing experience. What does it mean to your teams? And I mean, not just the teams on the field or the drivers on the track, Rick, but also the teams that you employ, in the stadium and at the track every day. The folks who've been, waiting to see us come back for the last 16 months. What does this all mean for them as well?
Well, I think, Chris, if you don't mind, I'll jump on this one. It's what we do, right? It's at the core of what we do. I've been, personally 23 years in minor league baseball, and then I've been at the track here since 2016. And, being around an event, being with fans, that's where I get my reward. Seeing that look on people's faces, creating those memorable moments and magical opportunities for people when they come to your facility. And I think I work with a really fine group of people throughout the country and right here in Michigan that all feel and believe the same way. We're in this because we love creating an event for people to come and enjoy themselves. And that instant reward, that gratification you get from, people coming and experiencing that at your facility is second to none. And so it's a privilege to be able to do it and to have an opportunity to work in it. But at the same time, really have missed it quite a bit. And I think we're all looking forward, very excited to have it back, have our guests back, and be back to the new normal.
Yeah,
How's it been at Comerica this year, Chris? I know it's, you had to go pretty much without fans last year. So how has it been having fans back, and now tonight, hopefully a really full house?
Yeah, the energy, and like Rick said, that's why we're in this line of business. It's certainly not for limited hours, and it's not for time spent, right? Like anyone looking to get into this field, that's I think can be shocking, is you realize you have a job, and then you have the event to actually work as well. So it's it's grueling there, but I can't tell you how many times, especially like the last month, 2 weeks, where we've seen the weather start to turn, and we have gotten people back and more people back, and starting tonight and hopefully the rest of the summer and season. But just walking around and talking to people who work here, whether it's on the food and beverage side or on our our security, our guest experience team, they feed off of that as well too, right? So they feed off that energy. That's what they do. The constant fluidity and motion of resolving issues that come up during events, or we're seeing opportunities, whether it's someone on the field or on the concourse or whatever it may be. That energy is there, and I can't tell you how many people unsolicited came up to me over the last couple of weeks to say, this is great, like we needed this, personally, but just collectively as an organization, as a team, as society. It's amazing what it's meant to people just to be back and working a game, let alone coming as a ticket holder. But the energy, I can tell you, you can feel it, and that's a cool experience. And I'm looking forward to tonight, and obviously the rest of the season, where that just continues to grow.
I hope you have a full house tonight, full of people who just got their first shot too. I'd love it if they were paying customers. I hope they come back and pay, but I hope they got their first shot tonight. So kind of taking this all and thinking back, it's been 16 months now. What do you think has changed permanently about your industry at this point? What sorts of things are just we're not going back to anymore? And how have, you are both run, class operations, so I'm sure you have adapted already. So what should we plan for as far as permanent changes?
Well, permanent, I think the cashless experience is more than likely here to stay. And I think that's just going to, I don't want to piggyback off of just technology, but I'll use technology and how we've been able to adapt that, whether that's through mobile ticketing, using the online health screening, trying to encourage people to pay to park in advance, and now the cashless. And I think you're going to see a little bit of a boom in the mobile wallets and offerings. There's a few companies that are out there that are doing this stuff. Some of the touchless things are still there. We're waiting on some ticket pedestals to come through where your mobile ticket is literally scanned, and that interaction between people that was there before, you're still going to see and interact with a person, but that touchless experience, I think, is probably something that will stick around for a little while. I think Rick made the point earlier, one thing we learned was we were doing a pretty good job with some of the stuff prior, whether it was cleaning or health or safety. So, I mean, I felt like at times we were really trying to push ourselves to think of what else we had to do. And, looking back at what we did last year and even the start of this year, I think we realized there was a lot of good things we were doing, and certainly we're adopting to whatever the state, the league, the city is quote unquote mandating us to do. But it's a lot of continuation, but I think just technology is going to continue to evolve. It'll be interesting to see in our, more the arena stadium side, how future development and architecture kind of manifests itself, because currently, probably in the last 3 to 5 years, one of the trends was really these social spaces, whether they were, if you look at what we have in right field, the Pepsi porch area, which is probably the most popular spot in the building, and even premium seating spaces are starting to revert from confined 8 to 10 people suites to more of a general open layout. I think that will continue, but it'll be interesting to see how that evolves over the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, the interaction between people and how they want to sit, I think is an interesting question. What about you, Rick? How do you think it's what's permanent in the racing industry?
Well, look, I think there's a lot of the similar conversation around technology can be had as you start to move forward. But we also, just from a fan engagement standpoint, throughout this process, we did a lot of things virtually. We had virtual, our midway, the kind of the carnival kind of area and marketplace kind of area that's in front of the tracks. And in Michigan, just to give you a sense of scope, at the track in Michigan, that's a 26-acre site, right? That's outside the facility. That's our main entry. So at the end of the day, we took that virtual, and I think we're gonna continue to keep that virtual. So if you're at home or in your campsite and you want to engage with our vendors there or engage with the entertainment there, that's going to still be available to you. So I think you're going to see a lot of that kind of, we did a bunch of virtual hospitality options for partners and sponsors and things like that. And I think that stuff is going to stay. So I think one of the things that makes, NASCAR so unique is there is one race each week, right? So you have there's 23 places in the world that host a NASCAR Cup Series race, like the Firekeepers Casino 400. And there's only one on the weekend. So all eyes of that sport are on you for that weekend. And so how do we engage somebody that might be in California or Alabama or Virginia or Ohio that couldn't make it out to the facility? So I think looking for ways to continue to engage our fans beyond the ones that are at the track, I think you're going to see that continue.
So I want to shift just a little bit, because while both of you are known for sporting events primarily, you're really entertainment venues, right? There are other things that happen. And so Rick, you've got this summer coming up, faster horses, country music, camping. It's a huge event. That's a little bit different than a sporting event. How are you planning for that differently this year?
Yeah, and that's in partnership with Live Nation, and we are super excited to welcome Faster Horses back this past year. It's been a very successful partnership and a very successful festival. Headlining this year, Jason Aldean, Thomas Rhett, Luke Combs, some of the biggest names in country music over the 3 days, third week in July out there. And whether or not they're a NASCAR fan or not, we want to do the same thing we can every time we can that somebody's at our facility to make them feel safe, make them feel welcome, make them feel included. And we'll just continue to follow the recommendations of the Department of Health and Human Services to take that same kind of a consistent approach. And to Chris's point, there's a lot of things we've been doing really well for a long time in terms of cleaning stations, hand sanitizing stations, those kinds of things available for people. So we'll continue with those things and then follow the guidelines given to us by the state and federal and local officials.
And what is your approach, Chris, to the concert business? I apologize, I haven't even really followed. I know there were some concerts scheduled for this summer, and I don't know if they're ongoing or what has been the Comerica Park approach to concerts this summer.
Yeah, so we had four that were scheduled last year that got pushed to 2021. We'll have 2 this year in August with Guns N' Roses and then the Green Day show, the 8th and the 10th, which we're excited about. We're now that we're at unlimited capacity, that was really kind of the trigger that got there. Our Billy Joel show will get rescheduled or has been rescheduled to next summer as well, and we'll see what happens after that. But in August we'll have shows, and we also as an organization, obviously the arena, Little Caesars Arena will be back and up and running, and I think August 1st they're hosting their kind of first event with fans. I think it's WWE. And then, you know, the outdoor amphitheaters as well, too, are in full swing. I mean, we're just in the midst of high school graduations right now. So as an organization, I think we have a lot of things. I've heard upwards of 150 events over 160 days, or 160 events in 150 days, right? As we get through the rest of the calendar year. So, you know, so I think what we were talking about earlier, where that demand, that energy, I think people, especially on the music side, I think you're really going to see some pent up demand, not only from artists that need to get back on the road and need to tour, but from a consumer standpoint, people thrive off of that live experience. And, you know, we saw it firsthand last year with no fans. I mean, it was an odd setup. You know, you rushed around that first game, and then all of a sudden I found myself watching a baseball game in the second inning with really nothing to do other than, you know, address a small fire or walk around and try to see what we can do better. So I think we're going to see that very quickly. We'll get back to, you know, normalcy in terms of the event stuff, and there's going to be a ton of opportunities for people to get out and see whatever, you know, version of entertainment they want to get to.
I think you're right on the music question. I mean, even for me, as someone who's more of a sports fan than a music fan, the music thing is something that I'm really looking forward to. I think there's an energy from a concert that I've been missing for the last 16 months. I don't want to end on a bad note, so this will not be my last question, but I just want to ask, you know, obviously no one anticipated 16 months ago that we were ever going to be in this situation we're in now. So I would imagine this has made you think about some contingency planning going forward. You know, should we, you know, whether there is another spike or some sort of other public health emergency, you know, what have you planned for going ahead so that if we find ourselves in a similar type situation, that your industry can adapt better, whether it is allowing fans to continue on some level? You know, are there lessons learned if we ever should find ourselves, God forbid, in this situation again?
I think for us, it was the pod seating, right? And spreading people out. That was just such an abnormality for us, where you're used to being able to pick a seat in section 324 or 122, whatever your price point was. And then how do you mold season ticket holders that are spread across 40,000 seats as well into a confined space and move them around? So our box office and our ticketing folks had a tremendous lift on their hands. So I think having that process in place, if we were ever to go through something like that, knowing that we can safely execute an event on a cleaning protocol standpoint, right, or whatever is required, but also welcome people back and do it safely. You know, I think we have that confidence now that no matter what comes up, we can adapt, because I don't think any of us foresaw just all of a sudden, boom, an end to people watching games or being at entertainment venues for however long it was, 14, 16 months. And I think our ability and even the government and CDC's ability to kind of adopt on the fly, I think hopefully, if God forbid that ever happen again, we would have a quicker turnaround than we did last time.
How about you, Rick? Anything?
Yeah, I would kind of echo similar comments, but I'd add in, you know, I think we've learned how to forecast and reforecast and budget and 16 times in a year for 17 different scenarios, right? And I'm really proud of the team I work with and their ability to pivot on a dime like that. And you know, I think there's tools in the toolbox that you want to keep and you want to have on board, right? Which I think the social distance seating, how to get people in and out, that all those different kinds of things are great to have in your toolbox. It's certainly not a skill set I ever thought I'd develop or have in my personal toolbox as I went about my career, but I think there's some good lessons learned there. And I also think, you know, quietly behind the scenes, just when I put my leadership hat on, I learned a lot about managing and working with my team remotely more, and how to try to create and keep morale and teamwork and communication at a high. And try to keep culture as well with the group of people that I work with. And then in turn, how do we take that communication? I think new ways of communication would be my small answer, Brad. Subtitle, you know, both to my team and my teammates and to my bosses and to the people in my company, but also to our fans, and recognizing their uncertainties and their stresses, and how do we, because at the core of what we do, and I think Chris would agree, we create an environment for you to come forget about whatever's going on in your life, right? Come on down to the ball game, come on down to the race, put your life away, have a beer, have a hot dog, enjoy whatever's going on, enjoy the sporting event, cheer for your favorite driver. That's what you're there to do. And when you have to socially distance and you have to wear a mask, and all of a sudden there's that constant reminder of what is going on in the world when we're designed to be a place that you forget about that stuff. So having gone through it to varying degrees, as you can imagine, for our company, every state had a different, right? There was not one consistent answer, which is, one of the strengths of our democracy is all the states can make some of their own decisions, right? And so at the end of the day, how do we still create a place for our fans to forget about what's going on in the world when what's going on in the world is so prominent in everything during this thing? And I think that's where a lot of that virtual engagement that we came up with, and a lot of those virtual encounters and virtual hospitalities, now you can be at our event and be safe wherever you are in a pandemic, right? And how does that work, and how are we delivering an experience to our guests in that environment? So I think there's a lot of lessons learned there.
Well, let me just say this on behalf of the sports fans of Michigan. For the last 16 months, the work that you guys and your team really helped us get through a lot of rough times too. You mentioned that you can't get away from what's been going on in the world, but for a few hours a day, we've been able to, by turning on the TV and seeing the work that your teams have done, and we're happy that you guys are going to have to work harder this summer. And we look forward to opening up our wallets and sharing some of our hard-earned money with you. So I just want to thank Rick Brenner, the president of Michigan International Speedway, Chris Lawrence, the vice president of operations at Comerica Park. I will let you know if this information is useful or you want to share it. We're going to post this to the website later at detroitchamber.com/COVID-19. We appreciate you joining us today. And Rick, Chris, thanks for the conversation. Look forward to seeing you both this summer with my Tigers and my MIS shirts on. So we'll look forward to seeing you then.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you. Good luck tonight, Chris.
Take care.